I rolled credits on South of Midnight. Let's talk about it. What's happening, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we're talking about one of the biggest small Xbox games of the year, coming from Compulsion Games, the team that put out Contrast in 2013 and We Happy Few in 2018, that's known for crafting hallucinatory experiences, which is something that South of Midnight absolutely fits the bill for. Xbox shot me an early code for review, and I officially rolled credits after around 10 hours. South of Midnight's a game that's a good time, not a long time. And it's absolutely a good time, but it does some things better than others. Where South of Midnight lacks in gameplay depth and variety, it makes up for in stories, art, and especially the music. It will not be a game for everyone, but it's absolutely a game I think a ton of people are going to really enjoy. Let's dig in. In South of Midnight, you play as Hazel Flood. The game opens up in the town of Prospero that's being hit by a hurricane, and Hazel and her mom are packing their things so they can head out into town and hunker down at the shelter. While all of this is going on, Hazel starts arguing with her mom about how her job as a social worker is taking too much of her time and how she doesn't really feel like a priority for her mom, before storming out and heading to check on the neighbors. The storm ramps up, floods come downriver, and Hazel's house gets swept away with her mom still inside, and that's kind of where the story kicks off. You start chasing your house and end up going on this folktale inspired adventure where you quickly learn you're a weaver, someone who can see the grand tapestry of how the world is woven together, and from there Hazel can use her powers to fight haints, basically trauma monsters, and help mend broken spirits along the way. So starting things off, the story is by far one of the standout elements in this game. It's a narrative that's got pretty much two different layers to it. You've got Hazel's hunt for her mom, plus the stories of the individual people that you find along the way. The game is split up into chapters with different folktale style stories from different people that you'll run into across your adventures, and these are some very dark stories. We're talking family tragedies, betrayal, guilt, loss, things like that Hazel has to navigate and bottle up to put on the bottle tree. That's this kind of magical tree that can help ward off the bad spirits and bring peace to people that she's helping. As Hazel's helping people along the way, she's also finding clues that point her towards her mom, but that also share some of her mom's backstory to help Hazel kind of understand her mom's perspective on the world and their family. And these two different sides of the storyline, Hazel and her mom and the rest of the side characters along the way, all come together to help Hazel change the way she looks at the world, to realize that people aren't always the monsters that they seem to be, and that bad things happen to bad people to make them the way that they are. There's definitely some interesting subtle commentary here on the world of social work and the trauma that people can face and the impact that can leave on them and the world over time, but that's for somebody else's future video essay to break down that I watch while I eat dinner. In terms of the gameplay experience, I'd put South of Midnight in the same camp as something like Psychonauts going in. You've got a little hacking and slashing, a little platforming and exploration, and that's bridging the gap between cutscenes and story details for each chapter in the game. And within that first hour of the game, you've kind of gotten all of the depth you're going to get from South of Midnight when it comes to the gameplay. Now, there are some upgrades and a couple of different abilities, but you get your basic stuff kind of very early on, and when you enter a combat section of the game, you're closed off and have to fight enemies to continue progressing. X is your basic attack that you can also hold down the charge. Y unravels the haints to give you back some of your health and eventually let you clear the area, and then you've got some different abilities like push, pull, and stun. You've also got some different enemy types tossed in, some fast, some slow, ranged attackers, a kind of tank build, but your approach for all of them is exactly the same. Dodge attacks, land some hits, stun, wash, rinse, and repeat. Zooming out, it's clear that Compulsion found a formula in South of Midnight that they didn't stray too far from along the way. When you get to a new story or chapter, you're introduced to a character, get some backstory, have some combat, see how it connects to your mom, get some more backstory, have some combat, get some more backstory. The pattern just kind of continues through the entire game. But the thing to understand with South of Midnight is that the combat and moment-to-moment gameplay are there to deliver the story. Playing on the standard Weaver difficulty, there's no real challenge, and even the platforming and collectibles are all pretty straightforward. The environmental puzzles aren't really all that challenging either, but all of that I think is by design. The more I played South of Midnight, the more I think that it's designed to be a kind of frictionless experience with gameplay satisfying enough to be enjoyable, but simple enough to keep you moving through the story and engaged in what's going on with the narrative. The beauty of South of Midnight is really in the story, the characters, and the world itself. The gameplay just happens to be what Compulsion is using to deliver that to you. But speaking of beauty, this game is absolutely gorgeous at points. I played on the Xbox Series X, and it's clear that Compulsion really took time to dial in on making the landscapes and lighting look as good as they possibly could. It's a very pretty game overall. But even though the world and environments are beautiful, the standout feature to me in South of Midnight is the music and sound design. The music is a huge part of this game, with tracks that change depending on the tone of the world around you. It really captures the feeling of the American Deep South with a kind of bayou vibe, but beyond that, each of the folktales comes with an original track that tells the story of the people you're helping or the events that are going down in game. One of the most interesting stories is one of the first that you actually actually come across in Chapter 3 of the game with a man named Rhubarb who's dealing with choices he made in his past that pretty much destroyed his family. No spoilers, but it's pretty traumatic. Having that story plus some combat tossed in, a little bit of platforming, and a soulful ballad playing in the background creates an experience that really captures the magic that I think Compulsion is shooting for here with South of Midnight. So to wrap everything up, if you're planning on picking up South of Midnight or playing on Game Pass, go into it ready to lean into the stories and soak in the meaning behind the narrative itself, because that is where you're going to find a lot to love. If you go in for the gameplay alone looking for the best hack and slash game of the year, you're going to come away disappointed. The combat, exploration, and platforming check their boxes to get the job done, but a repetitive rinse and repeat cycle definitely leaves a lot to be desired if you go in just looking at the gameplay. But all of that considered, I think Compulsion's done something very impressive here. They've scaled up their team a lot since Xbox acquired them in 2018. In fact, they've grown by a little over 50 people, I believe, according to their website. And those additional resources are definitely on full display with South of Midnight. It is a visually stunning and well-written game with a score and soundtrack that absolutely deserves some award nominations at the end of the year. But I'd love to know what you think down below. What do you think about Compulsion's track record so far, and are you planning on giving South of Midnight a shot? And of course, if you're new here and you like what you see and what you hear, hit that subscribe button for videos like this every week and gaming news shorts throughout the week to keep you in the loop, and I'll catch you on the next one.